event and lunch. I hope you had good lunch. You recall that we had completed one part of agenda item 6. One part of agenda item 6. I wish to now draw your attention to the second part of agenda item 6, which will be agenda item 6.1, and specifically the item that we'll be looking at, the communication activities for 2023-2024. And at this time, I wish to invite the Codex Secretariat, Giuseppe, to introduce the paper and provide the necessary information and details which may require us to have a discussion on the specific agenda. Codex Secretariat, you have the floor.
Senhor Presidente, vamos falar pouco de português, tá? Eu espero que os intérpretes perdoem meu sotaque riveu e também Cabo Verde.
Mr. Chairman, we're going to speak a little bit of Portuguese. Please forgive my Spanish accent. This region is the most active one in what concerns the communication activities of the Codex. And it reaches all the targets that are established in the communication plan. Even though CCAFRICA has reached the indicator established in the work plan in terms of the number of countries that determined to be 50% of the total number of members, there is still the opportunity for more countries in the region can share their experience, news, messages, tweets, posts that are related to the Codex work and related to CCAFRICA. Mr. Chairman, in future, we should make efforts to try and incorporate the communications concerning all initiatives so that we can keep up with this type of work. And also to involve other members of the region so that they can share their experience. And this is why we raise this in terms of the plan of communication for the region. We would like to have even a higher participation on the part of the members of the region. And before I forget, the result of the work that we did in terms of the briefings that the survey that we did, they indicate that the region is happy with the communication and also with the tools, and it also uses email and WhatsApp as a means of communication amongst themselves. Mr. Chairman, I've already spoken too much, and so I would like to thank the region once again. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Codex Secretariat, for that highlight on the agenda item number 6.1. I wish now to invite members and observers to provide comments on the report that has been prepared for purposes of your particular input in the discussions. The floor is open. So would like to check if members would like to share any probably experiences on the communications, probably at the national level, if there are any innovative proposals on how to improve either the communication at the regional level or at the national level, and some ideas probably other members of the region could be able to appreciate and probably deploy within their national systems. I believe this is an open exchange fora where we'll be able to exchange most of this information as it is happening in most of the member states at the moment. So I see Uganda wants to take the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Now, on behalf of Uganda and with regards to food safety aspects, taking into being cognizant with the continental strategies and aspirations, which also contain all aspects of awareness, communications, and rolling out. Mr. Chairman and colleagues, I would think that taking on the different strategies in Africa, like CADAP, which is 2026 to 2035, which has mainstream food safety aspects, issues of quality assurance and standards, implementation. We pray that whatever is being put up and aspired to be rolled out should be in line with some of the aspects contained. Then looking at the AU Food Safety Authority, looking at the SPS aspects, we would pray that to have a common understanding and language, aspects of uptake, scaling up, and calling to action of different investments in member states. Some of the aspects need to align themselves with whatever initiative we are coming up at the CCAFRICA and lining them up down to the different initiatives rolled out. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Uganda, for sharing some of these perspectives, which should be probably covered in terms of our continued engagement within the food safety space in the continent. Kenya.
Okay, thank you, Chair, for the presentation from the Codex Secretariat. I think there is something which came during our side event as regards to education to consumers and linked to communication on how Codex is addressing issues of disability as we communicate. Because we have members could be having challenges with sight and some having challenges with hearing. So how has Codex tried to address those challenges in terms of strategy and communication?
Thank you very much, Kenya, for the area, I think, which in many cases would be underrated or not given the attention that it may deserve. And I think it's a very good opportunity to reflect how we serve everyone in terms of sharing some of this information and accessible as possible to all the different consumers who may require it. I think it's a welcome perspective. Thank you very much. I wish to check if other members or observers would wish to also comment or input in terms of their contributions to this particular agenda item. or those that might want to share some experiences on how they undertake some communication at the national level through the initiatives which are undertaken at different levels. Okay, let's go to CAB International.
Hello, thank you, Chair, and good afternoon, colleagues. Hello, hello. Okay, yeah. Chair, I think race communication and awareness raising is still something that we are not really, we don't do much, and then that is one of the weaknesses when it's come to food safety awareness and then race communication issues. And as you could see from the side event, we have seen that countries are striving to really embark and then try to do something in that area, which is encouraging, and then we should encourage those members to strengthen and then continue in that line, but also encourage other countries to also embark on that. So having said that, Chair, collectively I think this committee should think about having a good strategy in place to really engage and then have proper risk communication strategies on the continent. Uganda has already provided some of the frameworks which are adopted at the continental, regional, and then also national level. But all those strategies have component of communication. However, on the ground, that is not the case in terms of implementation. So time has come that we really need to reflect and have proper strategy through this committee to be able to achieve that goal. Perhaps maybe in the next coming years, we could have that strategy and then make sure that we enroll and then have impact, especially the evaluation and impact of those communication within our community. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, CAB International, for your input to the discussion, which is extremely useful. Any other reflections, observations, or experience from the members, observers, on the area of communication, and probably if there are any additional innovative channels that we might want to deploy as we potentially get into the new strategy. Maybe we might want to advance in terms of how we have been communicating with much more newer innovative channels, taking into even consideration some of the proposals, for example, which came from Kenya on trying to reach everyone. So probably the tools we need to reflect on how best we can actually be able to use of them in terms of the communication at the national level and the regional level. The floor is still open for any experience, sharing, or information on the subject of communication by any of the member states or observers. Okay, so let's take Gambia, Nigeria, then we'll come back to the Codex Secretariat.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. We would like to appreciate the communication efforts of the Codex Secretariat and that of the CCAFRICA. Mr. Chair, from my observation, I don't know how effective and how efficient the surveys are. I know they are good indicators, but then I think the efficiency of the communication should be something that we should measure. Very often, it is one-way form of communication. It's usually communication from either the Codex Secretariat or CCAFRICA to us, the members. There is often very little communication from the members, the reverse flow of communication from the members to CCAFRICA under the Codex Secretariat for sharing information, sharing best practices, sharing success stories. Very often it leaves the communication platform, particularly of the CCAFRICA, a little bit stale. And I think we encourage members to often share their story and to change the narrative by not waiting to be asked, but actually periodically share their success stories, their challenges, and their best practices with the rest of the region. This would enrich the communication platforms, but it will also strengthen the information flow. Now, let us leverage on the existing technology to actually develop our communication framework, make it stronger, make it richer, and make it effective and efficient. So I think that will go a long way in generating results. Thank you.
Thank you very much, the Gambia. Nigeria.
Thank you very kindly, Mr. Chair. Food safety is everyone's business, and the issue of communication cannot be overemphasized because it's often said in advertisement that a man that is in the dark, that winks in the dark, only him alone knows what he's doing if it's not actually touching down to the target. And so it's very important that while we're looking at cutting-edge technologies, innovations in communication, which has to do with digital platforms, this also does not completely erode the traditional means of communications as well. And I want to share an example that happened recently in Lagos last week. A local government, that's the subnational chairman, decided to organize for our region, local government, a food safety advocacy, and I was part of it, and other non-governmental organizations were part of it. At the end of the day, we had close to over 2,000 people that benefited from it, and so much was dished out at this particular engagement. So I want to say that while the digital platforms has come to stay, we should also look at the other channels that are very, very important. The traditional rulers, the non-governmental organizations, the NGOs, and the CSOs are also very, very veritable tools to pass this information. Let's look at it. The critical mass of Africa is actually those people who don't have access to the digital platforms. The accessibility to digital platforms is something that is still growing. So the critical mass of it, especially the street vending kind of audience, customers, they still don't have access to some of these things. So you still have to find a way to reach down to them, either through the royal fathers, local government, sub-government nationals. So the grassroots must also be taken care of in our communication plan. So we are looking at the big the big organizations, the big picture. We should also look at the very man in the village, because like they always say, the devil is always in the details. So let's also pay attention to the traditional methods while we're also fostering the digital platforms. That's my submission, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Nigeria, for the insights, I believe, extremely very critical, which are touching on the different segments of the consumers of the communication in the region, and not to overly run with the new media and to forget that many other people in the continent might still be able to be reached using the traditional classical tools of communication. I think that's a very strong message, and we appreciate you for providing the insights, as we believe a mixed approach would be the best approach to deploy, factoring in the classical channels as well as the new digital tools in a balanced way of communication. Thank you very much. Before we turn back to the Codex Secretariat, I see Kenya. You want to take the floor again?
Yeah, thank you, Chair, for allowing me to come back again. But it's a suggestion from Kenya. Kenya appreciates the efforts by the coordinator in trying to streamline communication in the region. We wish to encourage members to share stories from their countries and have a regular updates to the coordinator for submission to the Codex Secretariat. Unless we have that regular monitoring way of communication, we may continue losing many success stories from our region. Kenya requests to task the coordinator to do regular scheduled requests to CCPs to share their country stories and other matters of interest to the region. So that I think we have quite a number of activities we are doing, but they are not reported or they are not captured. So this is something we deliberately want to task the coordinator to be extracting those stories. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Kenya. I think that's a welcome proposal, which will be useful in us being able to capture as much information as possible on what is actually going on in the respective member states. Thank you very much. Codex Secretariat.
Well, you know, every now and then I mention my former colleague David, and he used to say that nothing in life is more important than the ability of communicating effectively. And I will start maybe by thanking once again the region, because I was taking notes of some of your comments, and we have seen a shift from 2022, 2021 to what we have now. I've seen that we are sharing more success stories, stories also about data generation, stories about seminars that can even prod or stimulate other members in taking a similar path. I've taken note also of some of the comments related to the use of new technologies. Absolutely, this is something that we are already considering. Think about AI, right, for example, which is already changing our lives, whether we like it or not. But, Mr. Chair, we also have to consider that here we are looking at some of the results. Although we have already exceeded those goals, let me say it once again, those goals included in the former communication plan. But as you know, we have run many webinars, for example, throughout the last 2, maybe 3 years, where our colleagues in the room and also the colleagues that are not here with us today have shared their stories, the challenges as well that they faced in relation with the work of Codex. Mr. Chair, there was also an interesting proposal from CABI. This is basically for the members to decide. This could be something that we could discuss at the following sessions of CCAFRICA. It is indeed an interesting proposal, but of course, you members are the ones to take a decision on that. I think I will stop here in the meantime, and once again, thanks to the members.
Okay, thank you very much, members and the Codex Secretariat for the additional perspectives. With the discussion on agenda item 6.1, I wish to now propose the following conclusions. In addition to the previous conclusions I submitted on agenda item 6, so CCAFRICA 25, not the communication activities in the 2023 and 2024 work plan. 2, not the CCAFRICA 2025 satisfaction survey on regional communications, which will be attached as an appendix to this report. 3, urges the CCAFRICA coordinator to continuously engage members with a view to share the best practices, challenges that are taking place within the member countries. And lastly, CCAFRICA 25 adopts the Communication Work Plan 2024-2025, which will be attached as an appendix. Would this suffice as proposed conclusions on agenda item 6.1? Thank you very much. Noting no request for the floor, that will be a proposed conclusion for agenda item 6.1. And in effect, we have completed discussions on agenda item 6, and it is the right time to now transit to agenda item 7, which is on the Codex Strategic Plan 2026-2031, and we'll be talking about the status and the next steps. As you will see on the screen, a number of reference documents are supportive of the agenda. CCAFRICA 25/257, the main paper for the agenda, with CRDs 05 from Tanzania, CRD 07 from Zambia, CRD 08 from Burundi, CRD 09 from Cabo Verde, CRD 10 from Senegal, and CRD 12 from Kenya. At this time, I wish now to invite the Codex Secretariat to proceed and introduce this item, taking into consideration some of the current status, probably reflecting on the process and pointing us in probably where we will be going with the new strategy starting off in January 2026. Codex Secretariat.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and good afternoon to everyone. So I'm going to introduce to you the paper on the Codex Strategic Plan 2026 to 2031, and this is document CCAFRICA 2525. 2023/8. Now, I think we're all aware that the Codex Alimentarius Commission develops periodic strategic plans with the objective of advancing its mandate to develop food safety and quality standards that are in line with its statutory purpose, which is the protection of consumer health, facilitating fair practices in the food trade, and promoting coordination of all food standards work. Now, each strategic plan covers a period of 6 years. And while they all continue to highlight the mission and vision of Codex, we all recognize that the world is always changing around us. And so there's always an evolution as we move from one strategic plan to the next, which helps to try and focus our work on the key needs and concerns of members in the context of the prevailing global food safety and quality situation. So as we said in the last agenda item, our current strategic plan is coming to an end this year, and in 2023, work began on developing the strategic plan for 2026 to 2031. That work was concluded at the Commission in November of this year, whereby a new strategic plan with goals and outcomes for the period 2026 to 2031 was adopted. Now, the main goals and outcomes were adopted, but there's still some work to be done in terms of developing a monitoring and evaluation framework to go along with that strategic plan. And that work will happen in the course of this year. So the Codex Secretariat have been tasked to develop a first draft of that monitoring and evaluation framework, and that will be considered by the Executive Committee when it meets in the middle of this year. And then at one point in the year, it will also be shared with all members. So when you receive that, you will have the opportunity to comment on that before its finalisation, which we hope will happen at CAC 48 at the end of this year. So in the work plan, or the time frame and schedule for the development of the strategic plan, one of the things that was highlighted was the work plan needed to, or the discussions needed to support implementation of the strategic plan. And that was anticipated to happen in the course of this year, particularly by coordinating committees who meet in 2025. And so it's on our agenda here this week. As we move forward with this agenda item, we have an opportunity to see how we can use, or how we can bring together the needs of the region and the goals of Codex, because the strategic plan is not about something where we have a separate work plan. Rather, it's the framework or the direction in which the members have decided Codex should go in the coming years. And when we look at the goals, we see there are some changes from the last strategic plan. We've come from 5 goals to 4 goals, and there's some changes in the approach within each of these to reflect what's happening in the world around us. However, some fundamental aspects are still there. And for example, Goal 1 still focuses on ensuring that within Codex we are working on the needs of members, responding to whatever they identify as the challenges in terms of protecting health and ensuring fair practices in the food trade. But also the need to underpin our standards with science remains in there. So essentially we've collated to a certain extent what is currently the first 2 goals of the strategic plan. We still need to focus on the needs of members, and we should still be doing that based on science. So I think that's where we are with that one. In our second new goal, we have identified the need to enhance Codex work management systems and practices that support the effective and efficient development of standards and related texts. And we've always had, or for a number of years, had a goal that talked about improved efficiency. And I think in the development of this plan, many members and also colleagues are recognizing that resources are not always readily available. There's a need to be able to do more with less, and hence we within Codex also need to see how we can work more efficiently while still adhering to our overarching goal. Our next goal within this strategic plan is about strengthening relationships with relevant international organizations, and in doing so, promoting a coordinated approach to address global challenges. And this was really a reflection of the changing landscape in which we are operating today. It's a reflection on the particular goal that we in Codex have, but noting that many others have goals that are next to ours, and we need to see how we fit into the bigger picture, so that overall we're contributing to some of the key strategic areas that are being worked on today. And for this region, we've heard several references being made to the strategic direction of the region with regard to the development of key or priority agri-food sectors and targets with regard to food processing and that. So this is kind of the global context we need to be operating in, and we need to consider how our work fits best in there. And then the fourth one is also related to an area we discussed this morning, and it's about maximizing the impact of Codex, also by increasing visibility and use of standards. And I think from what we heard in our morning's discussion, all of us are very aware of that and the efforts that are needed to ensure that we are actually using Codex standards to the extent that that is possible, and we're also developing the standards that are meeting our needs. So these are the four broad goals that have been agreed for 2026 to 2031. And as we think about how our work fits with those, I think we also have the opportunity to learn from our past experiences. And we've already had a lot of reflection here in the last day and a half on what's been happening in the region. So we really have a very rich experience, I think, from which to move forward with the development of, or the discussion of how we are supporting the direction of Codex as outlined in the strategic plan. Perhaps I can just recall a few things that I heard in the last few days, and that seem to be cross-cutting themes across several agenda items this week. And one of those we heard yesterday and we heard today, which is the importance of ensuring the region is investing in data that can support risk assessment, that can support implementation of standards, and can ultimately support increased consumer protection and trade in the region. And I think this is an area, it fits very much with Goal 1 also of the Codex Strategic Plan, and could be a useful area to think about what efforts can be made through this committee to try and perhaps secure more investment into this area and to promote more engagement in ensuring that we have a better understanding of the food safety issues in the region based on data from the region. I think another area we heard of particularly yesterday was the importance of collaboration with other organizations, and even in some of our conclusions already we have highlighted the importance of collaboration between Codex and some key regional bodies, such as yesterday we were talking about standards, so with ARSO and also the African Union. We also heard about the regional economic community. So this, how we can work more effectively together, different international or regional organizations to achieve the goals we all want to achieve is important. And then I think other areas we can think about are how we align the work that we do in this committee with the strategic direction of the region. And we heard a number of interventions which highlighted those in the last 2 days. So I think these are some of the things that, as a committee, CCAFRICA needs to think about when it discusses how it will be working towards the implementation of the new Codex Strategic Plan. Again, I would like to emphasize these are not activities that should be completely separate from our work plan. These should be fully integrated into our work, but rather we can pull them out here and link them to the strategic goals that have been identified by the Codex Alimentarius Commission and agreed by the Codex Alimentarius Commission. So Mr. Chair, perhaps the task for this committee is to look more carefully at the new strategic plan and to identify maybe what the priority or goals or outcomes are for the next, even the next couple of years within that strategic plan that fits well with the needs of the region as well. And then based on that, I think we can identify whether we call it a work plan or identify the key issues or areas which this committee would be working towards. And again, as I mentioned, there is an ongoing work to develop the framework for monitoring of the Codex Strategic Plan 2026 to 2031, and all members will be invited to review that. So when you get that invitation, I would encourage you to participate in that as well. So, Mr. Chair, I hope that gives you an idea of where we can go with this discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Codex Secretariat, for introducing the item and providing the necessary details around the Codex strategic planning process and the outcomes that we currently at. I believe the region is in time for the potential implementation coming up in a year's time. So it provides an opportunity to the region to reflect on the current goals, outcomes, and probably be able to prioritize where our best energy and resources should be deployed in terms of a contribution to the achievements of the direction of Codex. I believe that is something that the region should be able to get into. So before I propose probably a pathway or a mechanism that will be able to deploy, I wish to check if there are there's any general comments, input, contributions from the members and observers at this stage before we move to the second pathway, where we will be proposing a mechanism of how to best engage us in the actual details of the plan, and probably we'll be able to land at specific activities that we'll be able to implement as a region. So I wish to open the floor at this stage for any general observations, general reflections on the submission made by the Codex Secretariat before we propose, I propose a specific pathway for the discussions going forward. The floor is open. Thank you very much. Kenya?
Thank you, Chair. From the submission from the Secretariat, it looks like the region requires to prioritize the areas they will be working on or the goals. And that being the case, then it's upon the region or this committee to find a way of how to prioritize those areas or identify them, so that as the work plan is being developed, it is aligned to the goals which they have already prioritized as a region. I think that is which comes first is the prioritization of the goals, so that we shall be in sync with the development of the work plan or action plan, whatever. I submit.
Thank you very much, Kenya, for the submission, and which is spot on. I think that is probably where we're going in terms of the process. I wish to check if there are any other general observations or any questions, comments from the members, probably which you might want to pose at this stage before we move to the next stage, where we will be actually practically going through the different elements and the prioritization mechanism. Any other comments from members or observers? Senegal.
Merci.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Senegal is happy about the adoption of the Codex Strategic Plan for 2026 to 2031, which represents, of course, a major milestone for the food security and also fair trade, food fair trade. Now, we follow the pertinent comment by Kenya, because Africa should take ownership of his action plan with respect to their needs. And on that strategic plan, Africa should elaborate, as we did the last time, when today the one who is chairing the Codex Secretariat and the committee was chaired by Kenya. Senegal was co-chairing, and Madam Grant was our facilitator. And I think this is the type of strategy or method that we should look at. And as you said, when we reach to that level, we will, of course, insist on what we propose in order to take ownership of the plan, of the strategic plan 2026-2031. I submit, Chair.
Thank you very much, Senegal. And indeed, you're right that we have deployed a number of mechanisms in the past for this a process like this. So we have a little bit of experience in terms of how we navigated the waters, how many, 6 years ago? So we will be able to do the same probably during this session. But before we do that, I wish to give the floor to Morocco and then Uganda.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairperson. Morocco as well would like to contribute with respect to goal number 1, that is to respond to members' needs in terms of protection and food health. Yes, we want to reiterate the same request which we formulated this morning, which is related to a lack of data at the African level, because in terms of international standards, we always have to rely on other continents' data sources or other countries. What we are missing is that our standards should be looking at regional data at our continental level. So this is for goal number 1. For goal number 3, I would like to have more details regarding those global challenges. What do we mean by global challenges, especially on item 3.3, that is sustainable and resilient food systems? With respect to sustainability, the question related to environment, I know that Codex means fair trade and also food health. So in terms of sustainability and environment, what is their role with respect to the Codex? Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Morocco, for your submission and additional requests for information regarding the global challenges. I believe feedback will be provided on that question after we have received input or contribution from Uganda.
Oh, thank you very much, Chair. And I'd like to thank the Codex for the presentation on the Codex strategic plan that's coming to an end. I think it's coming at the right time. First of all, when we have other dispensations, like the just concluded the CADAP package and declaration of Kampala 2026-2035, where we have a strong pillar on the again, food safety, so we'll plug into that to see that, we all move in the same direction. And other dispensations like One Health and all other dispensations are coming aboard. But I would like to, again, to pose a question to the Secretariat on the aspects of monitoring and evaluation and the performance of the strategic plan that's coming to an end. It's possible that we are doing an assessment on the strategic objectives, but it would be prudent for us to understand where have we scored best, and therefore what are we carrying forward from the old strategic plan moving forward, and what is it that we have not done well, and therefore what's going to be the game changer in this new strategic plan. I submit, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Uganda, for your input as well as some comments that the Codex Secretariat will be able to provide some additional perspectives on. I not know further requests for the floor, so at this stage I want to pass the floor to the Codex Secretariat for their reflections following the submissions from the members. Codex Secretariat.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Going back to some of the comments received, and particularly with regard to Goal 3 and the reference to global challenges and how Codex can contribute in the context of sustainable and resilient food systems. I think when we were developing the strategic plan, everybody recognized that Codex has a clear mandate, as you identified, to protect the health of consumers and facilitate fair practices in the food trade. However, there was also a recognition that in doing that, the production systems, the environment in which food was being produced, the way in which food is being produced is changing. And because of that, this may have implications for food safety. And it's important, if we're to ensure that Codex stays relevant and continues to support food safety and quality, that we are aware of these changes and that we're working hand in hand with those working in other areas to keep our standards up to date and to ensure they continue to deliver on the statutory purpose of Codex. So we're not moving into new areas of standard setting, rather we're ensuring that our standards are still relevant in a changing environment. We've already seen that happening, for example, and it was mentioned in the some of the standards and guidelines that were highlighted this morning. For example, the guidelines on the use and reuse of water in food production and processing. Again, this was a response to some of the challenges in production systems with regard to access to potable water or clean water, and it provides guidance on how to assess risk and deal with challenges in different water sources. So we're already starting to look at things in a different context, and I think that's what this goal is also referring to here. So I hope that addresses that question. With regard to the question from Uganda, on the current strategic plan, we have been every 2 years providing a report in line with the monitoring and evaluation framework that was developed for that plan. And at the last commission in November last year, an update on how we were performing against the indicators or the monitoring criteria was provided. And in general, this highlighted, I think in this current strategic plan, we faced challenges because it happened during the pandemic. So things did not go necessarily according to plan, and there was a lot of need for adaptation as we moved through the plan or through the implementation of work plans. So things may not have moved as quickly as we hoped, but I think the positive part of that was the move to increasing the use of technology within Codex, which has been very positive in terms of inclusivity. Another aspect, I think, is that we demonstrated that within Codex we have a membership who's willing to evolve and change, and so there were some positive aspects, I think, to that allows us to build on moving forward. We did note, however, when it comes to efficiency and timeliness of certain things, we still have challenges with regard to getting all the information we need out as early as possible, or with ensuring documents are available in multiple languages, and coping with the amount of meetings and electronic working groups and circular letters, and how we can perhaps do that more effectively. So I think all these fed in as well to having a particular focus, for example, in the new Goal 2 about how we can enhance Codex work management systems for effective and efficient delivery. So there have been some elements of that, I believe, already considered based on the interim reports of the current strategic plan, and we will, at the end of this year, collate all the information from the 6 years of implementation so that we have a final report for next year. I realize it's not ideal because there's a little bit of an overlap. The new strategic plan is already in place before we have the final report of the previous one. But nevertheless, our procedures allow us to review our strategic plan and adapt as we go along. So I think even when we have that report next year, we still have the opportunity to learn from that and adapt accordingly. So I hope that addresses some of the queries, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Codex Secretariat, for those additional reflections. I believe they provide the necessary clarity as requested by the members. I see nodding from the delegate from Morocco, and I hope the colleagues from Uganda also are able to appreciate that additional submission from the Codex Secretariat. Having had the input from the members and observers in the first round of discussions, we're now moving to the next stage of engagement on this agenda, item number 7. And at this stage, I wish to propose to the committee to establish an in-session working group with the following terms of reference. Specifically, 1, to identify the priority goals, outcomes, or goals and outcomes for the next 2 years up to CCAFRICA 26. 2, draft a work plan which identifies the key activities to be undertaken under the identified priority goals and outcomes. I wish to seek concurrence from the committee on the specific task that the in-session working group will actually be able to undertake on this particular agenda item. Okay, so the way the in-session working group will work, thank you for the concurrence, and I recall that during yesterday at the beginning we had mentioned that we'll deploy this mechanism at this stage. So I wish to request the delegation from Zambia was offered to chair the in-session working group to get to the top of the table and be able to lead us in the process of the engagement discussions as per the terms of reference in this in-session working group, and will be supported by the assistant to the chair. Zambia.
Good afternoon, members. Let's resume the session. So as a committee, we've been given our terms of reference to prioritize the goals in the strategic plan, come up with what our priority goals are like. Then we have our outcomes. Then we can draft some activities for our implementation plan. So I guess this is something that we've been discussing. So at this point, we've been told by Secretariat the goals that we have 4 goals that we need to prioritize. So at this point, I'll ask the members to provide submissions on the goals that need to be, that we would have prioritized as a region, those that we feel are relevant to the region. So just to go through the goals again, we have the document with us, but I'll just quickly go through the goals. The first goal is strategic goal number 1, respond to members' needs for protecting the health of consumers and ensuring fair practices in the food trade in an evolving global landscape by developing science-based standards and related texts. The second goal is enhance Codex work management systems and practices that support the effective and efficient development of standards and related texts. Goal number 3 is strengthen relationship with relevant international organizations, promoting coordinated approach to addressing global challenges. And goal number 4, which is the last one in this strategic plan, maximize the impact of Codex by increasing the visibility and use of standards. So we can therefore look at which goals we want to prioritize as a region. Tanzania, you have the floor. You may use a different mic, maybe something that is near you, if that one is not working.
Thank you, Chair. Mine is about clarification. I know we want to prioritize the strategic goals, but I think maybe we need to gauge the strategic goals maybe in highest priority, moderate priority, and priority and less priority, rather than leave out some of the goals, like as we did in our strategic plan, which we are implementing now. The goal number 4, number 2 and 5 was leave out. Is it the modality? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Tanzania. Would like to respond? Could the Secretariat?
Thank you very much. I think what we're trying to do here is link what the key things you need in the region are with the strategic goals of Codex and see where we come together. That one way of achieving that could be to recognize that maybe one or two of these goals are more important for the region, and therefore you'd like to invest in activities that would contribute to those. However, it may also be that you consider all of the goals are important, but maybe only one outcome under each of these is important. So, for example, under Goal 1, I think if we look at output 1.2, it's all about scientific advice that addresses the needs identified by CAC. And I think we've heard a lot this week about the importance of promoting efforts to generate data in the region. So clearly that's a priority for you and would contribute to Goal 1 in the strategic plan. Or for example, earlier this morning we had a lot of discussion on reviewing the guidelines for street-vended foods, noting the important role street-vended foods play in the region. And we also asked that we survey the current guidelines as a means of contributing to the analysis of the existing one, which again fits under 1.4. So you may not be contributing to all outcomes here, but there's a couple of these that are really relevant to the region. And you could also take that approach under each of the other goals. If there's something very important to what the region wants to achieve, then we can identify that. So I think it's really how we use this strategic plan and the needs of the region to come up with a work plan that ensures that we're all aligned, that we're aligning the needs of CCAFRICA in the context of the strategic plan which is being developed by the Commission. I hope that helps. Thank you.
Thank you, Codex Secretariat. Tanzania, I hope that answers your concern. Thank you. Malawi.
Thank you, Chair. Malawi would like to appreciate your proper management of the meeting, but at the same time, the previous chair on the same. As for Malawi, we would like actually to propose strategic goal number 1 as one of the key elements in actually driving the action forward, as well as on the strategic goal number 4. If you look at this, we see to it that these strategic goals are very relevant because they oscillate at the risk profile analysis, which has the component, for example, in goal number 1, which has the component of science-based as it involves risk identification. And further to that is on the need actually to have risk management. So, for example, issues of data sharing, which actually Morocco has been actually highlighting, still actually remains relevant here. And on the goal number 4 is all about actually risk communication, which is very relevant. Now, here, with the inclusion of actors as well as consumers, and then actually identifying languages that actually doesn't have barriers, by the end of the day, we believe that this can have actually substantial impact. So this is our proposal. Thank you.
Thank you, Malawi, for your submission. Senegal.
Merci.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The first question that we're asking ourselves is, what happened? Why did we change the chair? Or maybe it was said and we didn't hear it. So I'd like to know why we changed chairs. Secondly, the approach that is being used right now might not be productive. The electronic working group, we are thinking about it. We have to install it. We have to give it a mandate and tell them we have to create it first before telling them what they can do. And last time, I think groups were created immediately during a session, and they withdrew, and then they came back to propose objectives, etc. Whereas now, we don't have the time to consult among ourselves to create immediately this group. So we believe that
we either create the group now per country, and then we tell them, go and reflect, and then come back in 1 hour, and then tell us what you think. If we create the electronic working group, and we can now tell them, this is what you're going to be doing. The other proposal is we create the electronic working group, and we tell them, reflect on what are the objectives that you think are the most important, and then send them to the member countries. So this is the contribution of Senegal. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senegal, for that submission.
Clarify that we established we're not in the plenary session.
Codex Secretariat, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just to respond to the first question of Senegal about the chairperson at the top. If you recall yesterday, our chairperson for CCAFRICA proposed that it would be useful to maybe go out of plenary and have an in-session working group which would facilitate more free discussion on this strategic plan. And at that time, then Zambia agreed to be chair of that. And before we changed the chair, as you mentioned, we agreed on some terms of reference for this working group. So we're not in plenary session right now as such. We're in a working group to do exactly as you say, to brainstorm how we're going to address this strategic plan moving forward. So I think it's a very open forum for everybody to share their ideas in at this point. I would just caution against us thinking of the strategic plan implementation as something completely separate from all the work we're doing, because I think we've already identified a number of priorities for the region, and we're simply mapping those to the strategic plan. So we shouldn't think of this as a completely separate activity. Otherwise, I think it becomes even more challenging for us to implement on top of all the other activities we agree to. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Codex Secretariat. Senegal, would you like to come back, or you're okay with the submission from Secretariat?
Oui, bon, le Sénégal.
Senegal, thank you. Well, we did not know that this group had been already created. I thought that we were going to work a little bit more, or maybe we missed it through interpretation. So since it has already been done, the group is there. The form of this, we're working as a plenary. We don't know exactly what will come out of it although it's a working group, it's a working session. We're working as a plenary at the same time.
Thank you. I think I would like to get...
Alors, on aimerait avoir les points de vue des membres sur base de la
this assignment, or we can work the way we are working right now. So it's up to you members, since we have a bit of time on this session, which we need to really discuss to its fullness, so we can get views from you based on the submission from Senegal. Thank you. Kenya, please.
Thank you, Chair. Kenya would want to observe that Senegal submission is correct, that I think to them, they realize that the method we are using may not be effective in terms of getting the views from all the members. And it appears some of them were not even aware that we shall have these in-session discussions. So I think I propose we go the Senegal way in terms of maybe having small working groups. Still with the leadership of Zambia, we shall submit back from the groups what the groups have discussed. And then now that I think that will be a better option of getting views from these members. We can have form some groups of around 5, and then the 5 of them discuss the goals, come up with points, and then we submit back from the groups. I think that may work faster than, because I think the members, first of all, they even didn't know why the chairman changed. and so I would propose that we go the Senegal way, whereby we form groups, quickly look at the goals, and then we submit back to the in-session chair for further discussion.
Thank you, Kenya. Any other member? Burkina Faso.
The Burkinabe delegation is happy with the Senegalese proposal so that we'll be more efficient. We should divide ourselves into small groups, make proposals, and return to report back. Thank you.
Thank you, Burkina Faso.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We're rather on the line of what the Secretariat of Codex has proposed, that is, give the possibility to all the delegations to make their proposals in the plenary. We believe that will be more inclusive, and we believe that dividing ourselves into small groups and returning to report back, giving every group to talk about their own priorities, leads to the same thing. Because if we make groups, we shall take more time debating our priorities, and each group will come back to report back their priorities. And after that, we shall try to decide upon which priorities are the best, taking into account all the priorities expressed by each group. So we think that finally it will be the same thing, and we shall even have lost more time by forming small groups. So we ourselves would prefer the Codex Secretariat proposal.
Cabo Verde.
Muito obrigada, Senhora Presidente.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Cape Verdean delegation supports the Senegalese proposal of having small groups. We think that small groups are more efficient, and so we would like to say that we support Senegal's proposal. Thank you.
Thank you, Cabo Verde. Observer members? Oh. Ghana?
Ghana wants to support what Senegal said. We believe that if we are in smaller groups, it will be more effective. Looking at the objective goals we have, we believe that each one of them is quite important. The objectives might not be exactly of interest to the entire group, but I believe that we should break ourselves into smaller groups, 4 groups actually. That's our suggestion. That we should break ourselves into 4 groups. Each group should take one key strategic goal, and under the goal, we'll look at the objectives so that we don't spend all the time considering all the objective goals. So when we come back, we'll now look at the objectives we felt were priority areas. And I think we would have had enough discourse and justification why we think those objectives are critical for the strategic goals. Thank you.
Thank you, Ghana. Mali?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Since I'm taking the floor for the first time, I would like to thank the organizers of yesterday's reception. We were very happy to participate in that reception, and we would like to thank Uganda and all the organizers. Coming back to the issue at hand, we support the idea expressed by Senegal, that is to divide ourselves in small groups, because work in that way will be easier than in the big group. Thank you.
Thank you, Mali. I think at this point, Kabi International, please. Thank you.
Hello? Hello? It's okay? Yeah, okay. So thank you, Madam Chair. I think in this context, it will be appropriate in our view to have it in plenary, as the Secretary has suggested. Then that gives more transparency. Even though we have to bear in mind that we do not have a lot of time. So having the discussions, going through each objective strategic and then giving the floor to members to really contribute and then provide information on the status of their priorities will be more efficient in our view. And that will also save us a lot of time. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, so I think from the submissions, there seems to be a general view that we should break in small groups to discuss these strategic goals. So we'll break into 4 groups. Each group will be led by a member. So for starters, the first 2 groups, I'm volunteering Kenya and Senegal. They will have to be in 2 separate groups to lead the teams. The other 2 groups, I think members can decide, or we can have volunteers for the other 2 groups. So the way it's going to be is we'll have groups 1, 2, 3, and 4. So for group 1, you have goal 1 and 2. For group 2, you also have goal 1 and 2. Then group 3, 3, and 4, group 4, 3, and 4. The idea is not to have one strategic goal, but for you to at least have 2, so that from there you have the discussion and be able to come out with priority outcomes. So I think we can break into those 4 groups so that we start the discussion. 2 more volunteers to lead group 3 and 4. We have 1 and 2 being led by Kenya and Senegal. So we need 2 volunteers for group 3 and 4. Or I can volunteer 2 more members for that. Okay. Our volunteer members. So for group 3, Cabo Verde will lead group 3. And for group 4, Ghana will lead group 4. So we have Kenya, Senegal, Cabo Verde, and Ghana to lead these groups. So let's kindly break into 4 groups. Okay. All right. So considering that we're not going to have interpretations for the groups can work according to their preferred language. We realize that these 4 groups, we have French, English, and Portuguese. So we can work according to our preferred language. We have up to 5:30 to come back and present discussions from the group. We can take the 4 corners of the room in order to start our discussions. Let's start. Okay. All right. So I think in order to facilitate quick movement of members to the various groups, can we have team leads move Kenya in this corner, Senegal in that corner, Cabo Verde in the other corner, and Ghana in the other corner? Then let's start following our team leads quickly so that we can start our discussions.
How are they divided? With 1, 2, 3.
So just a bit of guidance as we start discussion. Remember that we are just starting this, so it's until we meet again for CCAFRICA 26. So we don't necessarily need to have a very long shopping list. We just need to initiate the discussion and start putting on what we can come and discuss and deal with between now and 2026. Thank you.
We would propose that English speakers form one group, Portuguese speakers one group, French speakers one group, and maybe English speakers one group, because there will be language problems otherwise.
We have a minute. We should be winding up, just a minute. It's time up. Let's resume the session. Can we please have, can you take our seats? Kenya, kindly give us your submissions. Followed by Senegal, and lastly will be Ghana. Quickly, we have 5 minutes for presentation for each of the groups. Can we please start?
Group 1 was Kenya?
Yes, Kenya, to be followed by Senegal and then Ghana.
Okay. Group 1, we had members from across the continent or the region, but we had a secretary from Nigeria who will present on our behalf.
Nigeria, please take the floor.
Okay, thank you very much, Secretary. The chairperson, sorry. On Group 1, which handle strategy goal number 1, the group agreed that we prioritize strategic goal number 1 as it is very important to the region. The group also notes that the outcome 1.1 is very relevant, and activities such as a stakeholder survey, expert panel could help achieve this outcome. On the outcome 1.2, the group also agreed that it is very relevant and encourage members of the region to join scientific advisory group. On 1.3, it is also identified that the outcome is very relevant, but may not be within the region's control. And also, the region can employ the use of codex risk analysis to achieve the goal. On 1.4, the group recognized that some work are expedited while some are delayed. Hence, this outcome could be best achieved with provision of data, and also agree that it is very relevant. Now, on strategic goal 2, the group also agreed that it is of high priority. On the expected outcome 2.1, it agreed that it is relevant, and there is need to leverage on digital platforms. On outcome 2.2, the group also agreed that it is relevant. It will help the region in prioritizing development of new work. It will also provide an avenue for engagement of stakeholders. On 2.3, the group agreed that government support for the success of this outcome is paramount, and it is very relevant. On 2.4, the group agreed that it could be achieved by improved advocacy to government agencies and politicians and those who are involved in making policies for each nation. Thank you.
Thank you, Nigeria, presenting on behalf of Group 1, which was led by Kenya. We now go to Senegal, Group 2.
Hello.
Yes, thank you very much. After the meeting regarding Goal 1 and 2, we maintain the following priorities. As part of the strategic goal number 1 is concerned, we identified the 1.1, which is the use of prospective analysis and monitoring activities to help identify problems likely to have incidents regarding food health and quality and food trade. We've also identified the 1.2 strategic goal by WHO and FAO, and also by the consultative advisory mixed entities, and the need also to identify by the Commission a subsidiary organ that look at international data, but also on technical knowledge and appropriate international methods. Regarding strategic goal number 2, we have identified the following: 2.3 and 2.4. 2.3 is support to the coordinator, chairperson, and contact person of Codex, as well as delegates as part of their roles and the strengthening of their capacities. 2.4, facilitation of active participation and sustainable participation of Codex members throughout the standardization implementation process. Now, the justifications that we have identified as regard to those priorities regarding 1.1, we have identified a problem in regards to availability of data, and then we will have to anticipate, identify the problems, and solve them as soon as possible. For 1.2, the consideration of scientific data and African realities will help in drafting a better development of Codex standards. Now, regarding goal number 2 and its priorities, for the 2 following sub-objectives that we have, we need capacity building of focal points and delegates in order to develop and defend countries' position in the course of Codex sessions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senegal. The next group is Group 3, which is Ghana. Remember, we didn't have Group 4. Group 4 was merged with Group 2. So we only have Group 3, which is Ghana. Ghana, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ghana considered the strategic goals 3 and 4, and we have the rapporteur who will do the presentation on our behalf. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So for strategic goal 3 and 4, our group decided that for goal 3, in order of importance, we are going to take 3.2, 3.3, and 3.4. So for the goal 3.2, the gaps in approaches to addressing global challenges that Codex could contribute to are identified through targeted engagement with relevant international organizations. For our activities, we are going to conduct a survey to collect information related to the challenges that are related to the African region. And for the second activity, conduct 2 webinars on the challenges that are related to African regions in 2 years to be able to identify the gaps that are related to the African region. For goal 3.3, the contribution of CAC to the transition towards sustainable and resilient food system is identified and considered. We also encourage members to adopt standards at their national level. For goal 3.4, contributions from relevant international organizations through development of Codex texts are encouraged. We are also going to do an activity. The International Standards Organization should be involved in the standard setting process. I don't know how we are going to achieve that, but we need to find a way to involve them so that the Codex standards can be harmonized with the other standards so that it can easily be applied in the region. Yes, strategic goal 4, maximizing the impact of Codex by increasing the visibility and the use of standards. The order of importance was 4.1, 4.3, and 4.2. The profile and recognition of Codex as the international food standard setting body for protecting consumer health and ensuring fair practices in food trade is enhanced. The further activity to make Codex visible, we have proposed celebrating of annual World Food Safety Day at regional levels using virtual tools like webinars. The use of digital platforms to promote food safety events that are related to the region and also at the country level. 4.3, harmonization through the increased use of Codex tests in establishing national food control systems and regulations is advocated for, and we couldn't complete on that. And then the last one, which is the use of the Codex test in the context of integrative approaches such as One Health is promoted. We could also agree on the activities for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ghana. Thank you, members, for those submissions. So if we look at the way we've stated the strategic goals and the outcomes, under strategic goal 1, it looks like 1.1, 1.2, and 1.4 seem like they're important to the region. Is that the consensus that the team has, that these are the strategic, the outcomes that we want under this strategic goal? I can see some nodding. Okay, so at this point, I think we just have to agree that if these are the focus areas for CCAFRICA, when we look at 1.1, and remember we are looking at the next 2 years, so as we prioritize, we also need to look at what activities are we going to develop under these outcomes. if we have so many, then we end up having so many activities, and maybe implementation might not really be adequate. But at this point, I think let's look at them, and if this is what the region would like, we need that affirmation. Okay, then seeing no flags, we agree on these outcomes. We can go to strategic goal number 2.
I'm not this one. Well, one group suggested that, but to be honest, it's not so much the much to really do. But these parts are the ones that both groups indicated are important and relevant. So I guess that is for starting.
So under strategic objective number 2, there was some convergence in terms of outcome 2.3 and 2.4. With regards to 2.1 and 2.2, we didn't seem to have some convergence, so we need to agree on 2.3 and 2.4, if those are the outcomes that the region would like, and for the groups that propose them, what your views are on these outcomes under strategic goal number 2. Okay, so as we look at the strategic goal number 2, I think for now, we do recognize that the 4 outcomes are important to the region, but maybe we'll focus on outcome 2.3 and outcome 2.4. Is that okay with the members that we move that way? Okay, we seem to have some agreement there. We can go to strategic goal number 3. So for strategic goal number 3, members presented what was important as 3.2, 3.3, as well as 3.4. So we need to agree if, as members, whether these outcomes is what we feel is important for the region, or we can prioritize them to maybe remain with 2 outcomes from the 3 that were presented. We can get your views. I think especially for the other two groups that did not have a chance to look at strategic goal 3 and 4, it's your time to look at what the group presented. The priority in the group was 3.2, 3.3, and 3.4. Do we agree with the group members that presented these as our priority outcomes? For the other groups that did not have a chance to look at this, okay, seeing no flags, we'll pick the priorities that have been set in strategic goal number 3, which is 3.2, 3.3, and 3.4. We move to strategic goal number 4. I think members in this group stated that 4.1 was of utmost priority.